a martial art principle. I came with the Wu-Tang Clan, which you may be familiar with. We sold millions of records, fusing Asian culture, hip-hop culture, and comic book culture actually into our music, and led to a lot of success. It led to me being called by a movie producer and movie director named Jim Jarmusch, who commissioned me to do music for his film Ghost Dog. And that got some critical success and critical acclaim, and that led to me meeting Quentin Tarantino, who I immediately met a fellow genius and a fellow lover of martial art films, but a real great director and a great mind. And I actually became a student, and I became a student. I studied directing films with him on the set of Kill. He came to me and said he wanted to help get it done, and he read my script. I won't call it a screenplay because I didn't have the talent yet to write a screenplay, but I could write great stories, and wrote like a 90-page script. But he came and helped flush it out, and it turned from 90 pages to a 130-page screenplay. It incorporates the Shaolin style of martial art. It incorporates UFC style of martial arts, which Kung Lee brings to the table. Dave Bautista, who's a WWE World Champion wrestler, but also does the Filipino Kali stick fighting martial art. So that's incorporated inside the movie as well. Rick Yoon, the Taekwondo fighter, so Taekwondo is in here. Myself, trained in Hung Gar, Tiger Crane style, which is utilized. You'll see that as one of the final blows of the movie. And we also brought in classic Shaw Brother actors. You know, Gordon Liu, the master killer himself, is in this film. Chin Quan Ta from Executioners of Shaolin and Triple Adventures and many other movies is in this film. Lau Kar Lung, also known as Beardy, who hundreds of movies from Thunder and Mantis to the first movie Warriors 2, which is one of the first movies that showed you Wing Chun board as other extras and stunt doubles and things like that. So we incorporated real martial artists into this film. And it's a film that blends the martial arts cinema Shaw Brothers style with Star Wars, because we thought very much about making a universe that characters could come in and out like Boba Fett. You'll notice in the film there's a Falcon clan that comes in and you don't see them no more. My idea was, Boba Fett came in for a short time in Star Wars, but I still had to get the toy, right? So that was what the idea of. Also, comic books are incorporated into this film in a sense. Being a big fan of DC, Marvel, and now Image Comics, I wanted to make this movie go from just being a practical way of showing martial art films to an esoteric way. So that's why when you see a character like Brass Body, who turns to brass, that's us adding that comic book element. But what I did to make sure that any martial artist who watch this film would know that we know what we're doing, you notice that on his design of his body, we show you the chi meridians that's used in acupuncture, and that chi flows through your body as a martial flows in our body, and it's really what makes your punch impactful, like Bruce Lee would say, the one-inch punch, and that chi gets translated to that jing, as they would say in Chinese. And we incorporated, that philosophy into our film. We was conscious of using some wire work, but also being very practical, keeping the martial arts grounded. Great cast of people came in, like I said, also including Russell Crowe, who not a martial artist, but actually, I'm gonna share this, he does do yoga. Even though he didn't do no yoga in the film, he went Gladiator Maximus style. We got Daniel Wu, a great martial artist, and Lucy Liu as well, who didn't get time to train for the film, but was so good in shape that she just said action and she just kicked ass, Took about 7 years for this thing to come from thought in our minds to being conceived to a film that you can now see yourself November 2nd or when Universal decides to show it to you. Watched many of these, and this definitely could fit right in the top 10, top 20 rankings of martial art films, and I made sure that I would do it that way. Now, in my opinion, the 3 top martial art films made from the American side, and I'm gonna consider Bruce Lee an American because he's an American. is Enter the Dragon, later on, Kill Bill, and now The Man with the Iron Fist. I think these would be the three top ones from that an American mind took an Asian culture aesthetic and made it into a film that we could enjoy. So I don't know if you guys seen it or not, but I hope you see it and enjoy it, and I'm ready for questions.
How?
It's with Andrew Lin, Grace Hong, Byron Man, and Kung Lee. And what made that scene so difficult was, first of all, to design the weapons took us weeks of trying to figure out how to make this, I call it the yin-yang sword, which doesn't exist. And it's actually the reverse of a sword. You know, we thought about, like, if you look in the Arabic culture, they had a sword that had more of a sickle shape. So we kind of took some from that culture and some of the Asian culture and some of my imagination, and we formed this yin-yang sword. And to get it to work and to get it to look good on the screen and make it be special took a long time. Even with a great action director like Corey Yun, who's considered one of the best in the business, it took us, you know, days and days to figure out how this fight was going to take place, go through, and be executed. And when you watch it, to me, out of all the fights in the movie, it's the one that really pays the most homage to Shaw Brothers. First thing I would say is, don't let nobody deter you from your path. And then the second thing I would say that many people enter the path, but few are prepared. Preparation is the most important key to making any kind of film, but especially a film of this caliber. You have to prepare yourself mentally and physically. We took about 14 weeks of preparation for 10 weeks of shooting. So we prepared longer than we worked, because when you're shooting a film, as you know, it costs money every day. And so before you spend that money, you better be prepared and make sure that every I is dotted and every T is crossed. So preparation would be the single word that I would advise to anybody who's trying to enter this arena. Actually, a part of the production, he trusted me. You know, after being around him for, you know, it took a 5-year process. And in the second year I went to him, I was ready. Yo, I'm ready to do a movie. He said, no, you're not ready, Bobby. All right. In the 4th year again, I tried again. And he's like, you know, you're getting there. It was the 5th year that he was like, yeah, you're ready. And then me and Eli said, well, we got this. He was like, okay, guys, you know, go. And he didn't come on board until after we already had the green light and everything. And we said to each other, you know, what's one way to help separate our film? Because they make 100 Kung Fu films every year, and maybe we'll get lost in the titles. And we said, well, let's go back to The Godfather and have him present it to the world, because we are his students. You know what I mean? This is definitely, to me, I'm working on Kill Bill with him. I was on the set, I seen the growth of Kill Bill. I seen it shot, filmed in China, Beijing, in Mexico, and I seen it come out. I did the music for it, and I seen how successful it was, that there's an audience out here who loves this. But guess what? After Kill Bill, it's dry. Then the next movie we get is Fearless, which is probably better than Hero, but it wasn't Quentin Tarantino present, and it did moderately well in our country. But these movies are subtitled. Kill Bill wasn't subtitled. The Man with the Iron Fist is not a subtitled film. It's an English-speaking film with a very, very small amount of subtitles just to add the flavor. So he didn't hold my hand for this. But what he did do is he came to China around week 8 of the principal photography, and it was the final stretch. When he came, he gave us that last boost of energy that got all the DP. Everybody's just so happy Quentin Tarantino was there, and everybody just started working even extra hard. And he sat there at Video Village with me, and he looked over and he said, hey, Bobby, this all started with you in Beijing, sitting in the corner watching me as a student. And I want to tell you that the student has now become a master. And that's when I was like, oh, and after that, my confidence cannot be shattered. The most difficult thing, I would say, was acting. And the reason why is because as a director, you are so much dedicated to your cast and crew. And it was days, you know, where, you know, I cut my own acting schedule and fighting time down so that I can make sure that Lucy's scene was right, that Russell's scene was right. And time was running out for my scene. And some days I would have to direct them in the first half of the day, and then after lunch, I have to go get into the costume and become the blacksmith. And I'm a serious actor. When I act, I turn to the person. And so it felt a little schizo. You know, and I'm no schizophrenia, okay? But it felt a little schizo sometimes, just trying to breathe myself into the character. And then, you know, they all waiting for me to say action or cut. And so I have to tell them, so I'll be like, and it'll go, and I'll be doing my thing. And I'll be so serious, like. And I'm, you know, trying to be romantic and, you know, rubbing her hand, and she's saying how strong I am, and now it's time to cut, and I was just like, I cut like that with my friend. So that was the most difficult part of acting, anyway. Of mixed martial arts. I think Bruce Lee is one of the fathers of mixed martial arts. He's one of the first ones who realized that, you know, a true fighter, because martial art, you know, is different than fighting in all reality. It's called martial art, but to fight somebody, you know what I mean? You gotta kick, spit, and you can't bite and spit in the ring. But you know, in real life, kid, you're gonna do whatever you can to survive. But I'm a big fan of it. I'm a fan of UFC, Strike Force. What's the other one? I watch them all, actually. Even when the Japanese guys was doing it earlier, you know what I mean? And I think that in today's society, we gotta mix it up. You know, Jeet Kune Do was a mixture of many styles. He had American boxing, he picked up from Muhammad Ali. He had fencing that he picked up, and he had his Wing Chun and his Choi Lee Fat style. And my son, who loves sports, you know, I took him to the Wudang or Wu-Tang style of martial art first, so he could learn that. And now I got him doing fencing. You know what I mean? So I knew that the way that Bruce Lee did it was probably one of the best ways to do it. And with the emergence of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu inside the game and Muay Thai, man, I think that it's just going to grow. It hasn't peaked out yet. So I give that, you know, 10 years to peak out. Maybe after that we'll start getting swords in the ring and I hope they don't start killing each other on TV though. I don't want to see that, you know what I mean? Only in the movies keep you killed. So now, the first thing I would tell a person to do is to study a book about stances. I mean, Bruce Lee's book, The Intercepting Fist, or he have a book just called Chinese Kung Fu. He has a book that just says Chinese Kung Fu. Maybe it's about 60 pages long. And he just deals with the basic principles. The best way to learn martial arts is to build your stance first. You start from the bottom up. Because once the foundation is strong, like any house, you could build on top of it. So I would suggest a person pick up a book about stances. There's a form called Hung Gar, which is a form that I have it trained for the film, and it incorporates all the major stances, which is horse stance, the bow stance, the dragon or the monkey stance, they may call it. And this is just learn how to shift your weight on your legs so that when you're ready to fight, you always have a strong bottom.
Don't forget to visit us online on Galatview.com. Click like on YouTube page. Click on like on Galatview.com.